کودکی خادم این تبار محترمم چنان حبیب مظاهر مدافع.
Assalamu alaikum, inshallah you're all doing well. I wanted to give a quick reminder on why, it's a simple question, but it's a question we've all been getting a lot recently. You Shia, why do you specifically follow Ahlul Bayt? And what do we mean by saying following Ahlul Bayt? Now, we're going to use some rational arguments, and we're going to get some verse from the Quran and some hadith. For example, we claim that the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam are infallible. And the reason why is, for example, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa has a hadith which he says, which is also in Muslim and Tirmidhi as well. I leave behind you two weighty things. Hold on to them and you'll never ever go astray. The Quran and the Ahlul Bayt. Now we know the Quran is revealed from Allah and it's perfect. It's a message for mankind to guide us until the day of judgment. So whatever is alongside the Quran, we also believe that they are perfect as well, and they are our perfect role models. This links to a hadith of Imam Zayn al-Abidin alayhi salam. A companion asked him, "Oh Imam Zayn al-Abidin, how do you guys not commit sin, you Ahlul Bayt, you Imams? Are you guys angels?" Imam Zayn al-Abidin asked him a question. He says, "Would you go outside naked?" The man says, "Of course not, never." He says, "Exactly, because you know the direct consequence of the action. Us, the Aimah, the Imams, because we have knowledge from Allah, we have divine inspiration, we know the consequence of every action. So we do not commit sin, we're free from it." So these are some of the reasons why we follow Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam. Another reason is, for example, chapter 33, verse 33, where Allah clarifies that Ahlul Bayt is free from sin. Sin is completely away from them. Our brothers from other school of thought, such as the Sunnis, they, for example, believe that the leaders, the successors of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa the Khalifas, are chosen by the people. We believe in a divine appointment, and the leadership is only chosen by Allah. This makes rational sense as well. That's why I gave the rational argument. Why? Because when you look at Adam to Isa alayhi salam, all the wasis, all the successors are all chosen by Allah. So it also makes, if the rest of messengers, his successors chosen by Allah as well. Also this doesn't, like the companions would avoid maybe arguing, having different opinions, because when Allah reveals something, it's clear cut and the people have to take it. So these are the basic things, these are our opinions about the Imams and why Ahlul Bayt is chosen by God. God bless you. Thank you for listening.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين بارئ الخلائق أجمعين باعث الأنبياء والمرسلين والصلاة والسلام على حبيبي العالمين أبي القاسم محمد.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد
وعلى آل الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المذلومين. يا آل بيت رسول الله حبكم فرض من الله في القرآن أنزله كفاكم من عظيم فخر أنكم من لم يصلي عليكم لا صلاة له.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد.
بآل محمد عرف الصواب وفي أبياتهم نزل الكتاب وهم حجج الإله على البرايا. بهم وبجدهم لا يسترابون الذين كلامهم نور وأمرهم رشد ووصيتهم التقوى وفعلهم الخير وعادتهم الإحسان وسجيتهم الكرم لا سيما على مهدي هذه الأمة وطاووس أهل الجنة الحجة بن الحسن الأسكري أرواحنا فدا. قال الله تعالى في كتابه الكريم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم ومن يخرج من بيته محاجرا إلى الله ورسوله ثم يدركه الموت فقد وقع أجره على الله صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلى على محمد وآل محمد. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the 100th verse of Surah An-Nisa speaks about migration. He speaks about these individuals who leave their houses towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Prophet, migrating towards them, and on their journey during this migration towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger, ثُمَّ يُدْرِكْهُ الْمَوْتِ. These individuals who left their houses towards this migration, they pass away on this journey. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says these individuals, their reward is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the oft forgiving and shall forgive their sins. An analysis of this verse and this idea of migration and travel in Quran al-Kareem and in Islam, the first question that arises about this verse of Surah An-Nisa is with regards to the reason for which it was revealed. As we understand the verses of Quran al-Kareem, yes, refer to me and you and apply it by me and you in our lives. However, often a verse of Quran has a specific reason why it was revealed, and this gives that verse specific context. So in the same way, when we come to this verse speaking about those individuals or that person who leaves his house towards the Rasul and Allah and passes away on this journey, the Mufassirin, they look at this question and idea as to what was meant by that individual that left. Was this a specific person? And was this referring to a specific time in history? Because as we understand, the word hijrah comes from that word literally, which means to separate. Because when a person migrates to any place, any bilad, he separates himself from his hometown, mathalan, from his family, from his beloved ones, and goes to a new place. Here the Mufassirin have different discussions about the sabab of nuzul and the reason why this was revealed. For example, majority of the Mufassirin, they mentioned that there was an individual who lived during the time of the Prophet of Islam, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, who didn't believe in Islam. The Prophet of Islam had already migrated where? Towards Madinatul Munawwara. This individual, one day he hears the revelation of one of the verses of Quran, and directly that verse affects his heart and qalb. He says, if I heard these verses, I realized that this is the kalam and the speech of someone who is greater than human being, who is greater than insan. This kalam can only be kalam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this man, who we are told was called Jundub, elderly in age, tells his son that I wish to migrate from Mecca towards this Prophet in Madinatul Munawwara. Awalan, we are told about Jundub is that he's very unwell. Thaniyan, he's very old, he's very weak. So the family members, they tell him, don't travel. You're unwell, number one, you're very weak, how can you travel anywhere? Stay here, accept the belief in this Prophet and his religion, but stay in your hometown. He says, no, I cannot bear that I will die amongst the polytheists. I wish to die amongst the muwahhideen and the followers of the Prophet of Islam. And so the hadith mentions that this Jundub leaves Makkatul Mukarramah. Whilst he has left Makkatul Mukarramah, on the way he reaches Tan'im, where people who go to Hajj and Umrah, they know Tan'im. At the place of Tan'im, he passes away, and therefore Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals this verse, Man yakhruj min baytihi muhajiran ila Allah wa rasulih. This was one idea. The other idea mentioned by Mufassirin was in actual fact, no. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in verses of Quran, speaks about the specific migration of the Prophet of Islam from Mecca to Mukarramah to Medina. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, الذين يذكرون الله قياما وقعودا وعلى جنوبهم ويتفكرون في خلق السماوات والأرض. These people, they stand, they're in dhikr. They sit down, they're in dhikr. They lie down on their sides, they are in dhikr. That verse was speaking about Amirul Mu'mineen salamullah alayhi and the three Fawatim, the three women called Fatima, that traveled with him in that migration from Mecca to Medina to Munawwar. So Quran mentions that exact migration in different verses of Quran. إن الذي فرض عليك القرآن لردك إلى معاد is referring to the migration of the Prophet of Islam. Here, scholars, some said this verse, those that leave their houses towards the Prophet and Allah and pass away, was referring specifically to that migration of the Prophet of Islam to Medina. That there were a group of Muslimin that decided we wish to join the Prophet of Islam in Medinatul Munawwara. Whilst they are on their way, they are caught by the mushrikeen of Meccatul Mukarramah. When they are caught by these mushrikeen, they kill them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reveals this verse. This was in regards to the reason of revelation. As we understand, in many verses of Quran al-Kareem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala either speaks about travel or migration. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks extensively with regards to the travels of Dhul Qarnayn when he goes to Matla' al-Shams, Maghrib al-Shams, and the different places that he visits. Or for example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the migration of Ibrahim alayhi salam, who's forced to leave by Namrud. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the migration of Musa alayhi salam. And generally in Quran al-Kareem we see verse upon verse emphasizing travel. Here we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse also specifies and emphasizes on this issue of migration towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What did this mean? Migration towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala meant that the place I am living in currently, in that place I am unable to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to my best capacity. However, I know that if I move from this place to another, I will be more free and able to worship my Lord. I migrate. This is the migration towards Allah and His Prophet, for which the Prophet of Islam himself mentions that if a person migrates from his hometown, where he lives, his watan, to another place for Allah, for the sake of Allah, oh, I can't live here. If I live here, I can't practice my religion. If a person migrates, even if this is the span of one shibr, shibr in Arabic refers to that which is between the thumb and the smallest finger. This is one shibr. Even if this person migrates one shibr, i.e. for example, I moved house. My house, I can't, for example, live there and follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's religion. I moved one shibr. He says, وَلَوْ كَانَ شِبْرًا, that individual gains Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Migration was emphasized and mentioned in Quran in different points. And as we understand, if a person looks at the history of Islam itself, when the migration takes place, and then the Prophet of Islam passes away on the 11th year, we are told when it came to the time of the second Khalif, the Muslimin said, where should we start counting our calendar and our years from? Today, for example, before Christ, after Christ, we have this whole thing. Muslimin, they said, when can we start counting our calendar? Some said, for example, the Bi'tha, the time when the Prophet of Islam announces his prophethood. Others said, no, Mi'raj was a time, there was this moment, there was that moment, Shi'ab Abi Talib, all these different events. They came at that time to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. Abu al-Hasan says, I give you the best time to start your calendar. They said, what? He said, start your calendar from the time of Hijrah, migration. Why? Because as soon as they migrated from Mecca to Medina to Munawwara, they saw a complete change in the social and political status of Islam. That the things that they couldn't have imagined that Islam would have in Mecca to Mukarramah, in Medina they have a society, they have a community, they have a leadership, they have a whole infrastructure of Islam. Because of the importance of this migration, the Muslimin decided to accept the advice of Amir al-Mu'mineen and start counting their calendar from the migration and hijrah of the Prophet of Islam. Therefore, we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave a lot of emphasis and importance to this migration. What we also understand, once these preliminary issues have been understood, is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also emphasizes on safar. Migration is I moved from one place to another. I moved house. Safar, however, was I traveled. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, in Quran, many verses speak about traveling in the land. Siru fil ard fanduru. Travel in the land and look at the way in which other societies and civilizations live their life. And here, therefore, to the second part of our discussion about this ayah, comes with regards to travel in Islam and its importance. Migration and travel. There are lines of poetry attributed towards Amir al-Mu'mineen sallallahu alayhi, where he says, سافروا فإن للسفر خمس فوائد تفرج هم واكتساب معيشتي وعلم وآداب وصحبة ماجدي. He says 5 things you will gain from traveling. The first thing you will gain from traveling is your stress is removed. تفرج هم. I'm stressed, I'm not happy, go and travel somewhere. The second thing you will get when you travel is that you get an increase in your livelihood. A person sees, I don't have good rizq, sustenance, travel somewhere. When you travel somewhere, you have opportunities, you have new places. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases someone's rizq when he travels for their rizq. تَفَرُّجُ هَمٍّ وَاكْتِسَابُ مَعِيشَتِي وَعِلْمٌ. One of the greatest sources of knowledge that a person has is when he travels. Look at the ulama. Sheikh Bahai travels all over the world. They say he even traveled to Sri Lanka. Shaheed al-Awwal, Sahib Kitab Durus and Dhikra, traveled all over the Middle East. Shaheed al-Thani, why? When they traveled, they gained all of these experiences. In fact, they say that one of the most important books today in the Hawza is by the name of Kifayatul Usul. Kifayatul Usul is a book on Usul al-Fiqh, just before the stage of Bahath Kharij. So a person, if he wants to become a mujtahid, he has to study Kifayatul Usul. The author of Kifayatul Usul, Akhund Khurasani, because he understands the importance of travel to gain knowledge, he lived in Tehran, very poor family, studies in Tehran, there are mujtahideen in Tehran, there are maraja in Tehran, he could have studied there. But he knows that if I travel to another place, especially they say al-ilm is found in ghurba. If I travel to a place where my family aren't present, I travel to a place where my friends aren't present, okay, I make friends there, but my original friends aren't there, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives me knowledge. They say Akhund Khurasani, just for knowledge, doesn't have money. He wishes to travel where? To Najaf al-Ashraf. He takes ijara. For example, a person's father passes away. This first person's father passes away, he had 20 years salah that he didn't pray, the father. The oldest son has to either perform himself those prayers or pay someone to do so. Akhund Khurasani said, I accepted to do and perform someone's prayers every single day, 5 days. 5 prayers. I accepted to do someone's prayer, 5 daily prayers for 20 years, just so that I could get enough money to travel to Najaf al-Ashraf. A person can't pray his own prayers, and these individuals to travel and to gain ilm take 20 years of someone else's salah just so that I can travel. So, removal of grief, increase in rizq, ilm, knowledge. Number 2, adab, adab. I gain akhlaq when I travel. I can't act in the normal ways I act. I see other civilizations and the way that they act. I learn new things. Also, the final benefit of traveling was said to be was suhbatu majidi, and I find a friend or companion. As we understand, therefore, Islam emphasized on the effects of traveling and the importance of it, which is why Quran al-Kareem mentions the travels of these different individuals. Here we also are taught from riwayat with regards to the importance of safar and traveling. As we know very famously, a person wishes to recognize their friend, their acquaintance. I know them here in London. I've seen them, I see them once a week, twice a week. But I want to know their haqiqah and reality. Any person, I have a family member, a faraway cousin, method. I want to know that person's haqiqah and reality. What is this person like? The riwayah says either you travel with that person, you will realize their haqiqah and identity. How many people have traveled with someone, they thought this person is an angel, min al-malaika, and you realize this person has all of the bad qualities even shaitan doesn't have. At least shaitan did ibadah once in his life. Travel. Or the riwayah says, deal with that person with what? Money. When you deal with money with that person, you realize, is this person stingy? Is this person generous? Does this person honor his promises or not? The third tip we were told to realize a person, their haqiqah and reality, is see someone when they are angry. You may see them right now to be like the best of individuals. Like a prophet of God with his sabha and doing tasbih and doing ibadah. Make that person angry once in his life and you will realize the haqiqah. So safar was meant to tell us the reality of individuals, which is why the emissars travel with a person. I wish to do business with this person, I don't know what he's like, take him 2-3 days somewhere and see his reality. But we also are told of one of the most important benefits of safar in Islam was what? Here we have a riwayah from Imam al-Sadiq salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi sallallahu Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. For the love of Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam, recite a second salawat. The riwayah is from Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam, saying that he is traveling with one of his companions, one of his ashab. As they are traveling, the Imam would travel for different reasons. Even it's mentioned in riwayat that they would sometimes travel for leisure. Traveling for leisure is also a good thing. I travel for a picnic, method. One of the riwayat speaks about traveling for picnics. As-Sadiq alayhi salam is traveling. As he is traveling with his companion, they pass by a city. The companion says, Ya Aba Abdullah, do you know what the people of the city, who are they? He says, who are they? He says, these people are stern enemies of Ahlul Bayt, Nawasib. So the Imam lifts up his hands in dua. And he says, Ya Allah, keep them together and unified in this city. Nawasib. Hope this person, Ameen Ilahi Ameen, they go to the next place. Again they're traveling, as they're traveling, a second city comes. Again they stop outside, maybe for salah or whatever. The person says, Ya Imam, do you know the people of this city, who are they? He said, who are they? These people are your lovers who have your wilayah. So the Imam puts again his hands towards the skies and says, Ya Allah, separate them from this one city, from one another. Separate them from one another. The person stops. He says, Ya Imam, al-aks, we did the opposite. He says, what do you mean? When we saw those who are nawasib, who hate you and your grandfather Ali bin Abi Talib and don't accept your wilayah, you did a dua that you keep them together in this city, happy all together as one. And when we saw those that have the wilayah and love for you, you said split them apart so that they can't remain together. What's the hikmah and philosophy behind this? So what was the reply? The reply was, those individuals, when they stay together in one place, their hatred of Ahlul Bayt also stays in that place. But those individuals, I did a dua that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes them spread across the land, so that wherever they go, a lover of Ahlul Bayt, wherever he goes, this love is contagious, he spreads it to those around him as well. That's why you find today, whether it was people that had to move from Iraq due to Saddam, or this place or that place, what was the hidden hikmah and wisdom and benefit of this? We saw that majalis, for example, are all over the world. Or we see that there is not one place and one continent where there is not a lover of Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Traveling also had this impact. When I travel, I bring my beliefs with me. When I migrate to one place, from one place to another, I establish my deen in that place. And that's why, with regards to this issue of when a believer migrates, one of the most important riwayat comes from Al-Ridha, from Al-Kadhim salamullah alayhi. With regards to this issue, the riwayah says that a person was forced to migrate from Medina or wherever to a place where there were no followers of Ahlul Bayt. Forced to migrate. This person, he comes one day into Medina al-Munawwara, he says, Ya Abul Hasan, I have a problem. I live in a place, the nature of the Shia is what? The riwayah says the Shia, he's happy when Ahlul Bayt are happy. He's sad when Ahlul Bayt are sad. Why? Because we were created, as we know, from that teen, from that turab, from the earth, that was left after Ahlul Bayt's body were formed. So when they are happy, sometimes I wake up. The riwayah says sometimes you wake up and you see yourself to be happy for no reason. Or sometimes I randomly see my mood has changed, I'm unhappy. Why? The riwayah says because your Imam at that time either was happy or unhappy. So for example today, when people come to celebrate the birth of Imam Ridha, naturally you are happy because your A'immah are happy. And a Shia, wherever he is, he wishes to express this happiness or sadness. In Muharram, he can't sit at home wherever he is. He wants to go to a majlis, he wants to cry and lament. And remember, this person, he comes to Imam al-Kadhim, he says, I am a follower of you and your grandfathers. I live in a place I was forced to migrate where there is no one who is part of the followers of Ahlul Bayt. Or even if they are, I don't know who they are. I can't tell who they are. We're all in taqiyyah. How can I identify? This is the key part of the hadith. He says, how can I identify who are the Shia in any locality and place without me coming and telling them I'm a Shia? Turns out that person is a Nasibi, he kills me. So how can I protect my faith and life but find where the Shia are of that place? Al-Kadhim alayhi salam yarhamukumullah, Al-Kadhim salamullah alayhi says, I give you one tip. He says, wherever you go, in whichever part of the world, ask around those people in that place and locality for the best person in that place. In regards to worship, in regards to piety, in regards to honor, in regards to all of these fada'il and virtues, ask for the best person. You ask 5 or 6 people, they told you at least 1 or 2 people. Whoever they told you, go to that person. Sit with them. Speak to him for a bit. When you speak to him, give certain isharat, indications, and you can tell whether this person is a follower of Ahlul Bayt or not. If you realize that that person who is claimed to be the best person of all of that locality, if you realize that that person isn't a follower of madhab of Ahlul Bayt, then know that there are no followers of Ahlul Bayt in that city or province. Why? He says because wherever there is a follower of Ahlul Bayt, wherever he is, he will be known to be the best person in that area. Ajib. He will be known to be the most prolific person in that place. If the most prolific person in that place isn't a follower of Ahlul Bayt, then none of them are present there. Islam, therefore, encouraged me to travel so that I can spread my religion wherever I go. Wherever I go, I take this religion with me and spread the love of Ahlul Bayt. Here, when it came to this issue of migration, however, we are also told through riwayat of the migration which is one stage higher and more important. Migration, I can't live in this place. I'm forced to move from one place to another. The Imam alayhim salam say, however, that there is the migration which is more important. What? They said the migration of insan away from his sayyi'at and towards fada'il. Meaning what? When a person migrates, why does he migrate? I live in London, mathalan, or I live in another place. There, for example, it's dangerous for me to live. There's no electricity, there's no water. I find it very difficult to earn my livelihood. Everything surrounding me is difficult. I find it very difficult to live here. So what would I do? I'd migrate from one place to another where there is a better, for example, infrastructure. There are more jobs available. There is safety. This is why someone migrates. Amir al-Mu'mineen and A'imma say the true migration is when me, in my character, I'm surrounded by sayyi'at and bad characteristics. I do a lot of ghibah. I lie a lot. I can't help it. I do certain things which surround my character in these ungodly virtues. Amir al-Mu'mineen says the true migration isn't that you move from one place to another. When Allah says, Man yakhruj, whoever leaves from his house towards Allah and His Rasul and dies on the way, he says that person who is trying to go away from those bad virtues into the light and the nur of fada'il and virtues of akhlaq. That I try to move away from this ghibah into leaving this action. When a person does so, this is the true migration in the eyes of Islam. I.e., this was the spiritual migration of the human being. Once all of these issues, without going into these issues any further, once all of these issues about hijrah and migration have been understood, now comes the third part of our lecture. Travel and hijrah. Now comes the third part of our lecture in regards to Imam Ridha alayhi salam. As we know, Abu al-Hasan al-Ridha salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi has three parts to his life. Al-awwal, living under his father in Medina al-Munawwar. The second part of his life is as an imam in Medina. Medina al-Munawwar, the hometown of Ahlul Bayt, he lives there as imam after his father passed away. The third part of his life, which is our discussion, is the migration of Imam Ridha from Medina al-Munawwara towards Tus and Khurasan, where he spends 2 or 3 years of his life. Let's look at this period of time very briefly and see some of the features of this migration of the Imam. As we know, the Abbasiyun have one of the Khulafa by the name of Harun. Harun was the Khalif of the Abbasids. He travels one day to the area of Mashhad today, Khurasan, Tus, Marf, for some sort of fiscal policy, fiscal issue. He was trying to sort out some taxation, because Khurasan and the Persian Empire was part of the Abbasids' rule. Whilst he was there, in this area, he dies. But when he dies, it's not that easy to move one body as it is today to another place, to bring him back to Baghdad, mathalan. He dies there in Mashhad. They say bury him there in Khurasan. So Harun was buried. Then, as we know, Amin, who is also the son of Harun, Amin says, I wish to take the reins of Khilafah of the Arabs. And his brother Mamun says, I shall take the reins of Khilafah of who? Of the Ajam and the Persians. So we are told that Mamun goes towards Iran, modern day Iran, goes towards that area of Khurasan, and Amin stays where he is in Baghdad. This was the Abbasid Khilafah. And later on, if you read in the history, just for this Khilafah, Amin is killed by his brother Mamun. Mamun kills his brother just for this Khilafah. Ala kulli. 200th year after Hijrah, we are told that Ma'mun says, I forced the son of Zahra, Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam, to migrate from Medina to al-Munawwara towards where? Towards Marf, Khurasan, Mashhad. When I forced him, I said, you have no option. He says, to save my life, I need to migrate. In the way that Abu Abdullah al-Husayn salamullah alayhi has to move from Medina to al-Munawwara going towards Kufa to save his life. Same reason. Al-Ridha alayhi salam said, I had to save my life. If I don't move, he's going to kill me. What did their Imam do when they wish to travel on any journey? First, of course, he does the ziyarah of his grandfather, Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. He does the ziyarah of his grandfather, the farewell ziyarah, and his mother Zahra alayhi salam. Then he goes where? The Imam, they would go to Makkah al-Mukarramah. He performs mathalan Umrah. Once he has performed Umrah, then he is told to be taken towards Tus and Khurasan. Here we are told that Ma'mun tells the people that took him, don't take him through 2 places. Take him to the route of Ahwaz and those areas. Don't take him through the route of Kufa, and don't take him through the route of Qom. Why? Because these 2 places, min al-qadim, from hundreds of years ago, have been very strongholds, big strongholds for the lovers of Ahlul Bayt. He said, if you take him through Qom, they'll make a revolution. If you take him from Kufa, the same thing. Take him from Ahwaz and Nishapur and these types of places. And as we know, the Imam travels in the way he is told to, forced to, made to migrate. He tells his family members and his sons that when I will travel from Medina to al-Munawwara, now I won't come back and I will be a foreigner in a faraway land, away from my family, away from my mother Zahra, away from my grandfather. As he is traveling, then we know different events take place. People that go, for example, today to Mashhad al-Ridha, salamullah alayhi, they go to Nishapur. They see the place where the Imam's footsteps were present. They see that stream which came out, that water that the Imam, with his dua, the stream came out. The trees that were planted, and the trees that didn't have fruit, but due to the presence of the Imam, became fruit-bearing. Goes Nishapur. There is the very famous hadith, the golden hadith, silsilatul dhahab of the Imam, which he does, which he mentions, La ilaha illallah hisni, until he gets to this area of Marf, modern day Mashhad. When the Imam has migrated to this place, suddenly people started pointing their fingers towards Imam Ridha. Someone may come to you today and have an ishkal and criticism and say, you say that the Abbasids were this and that, dhalimeen. If the Abbasids were dhalimeen, why is it then that your Imam al-Ridha became the second in charge, the Waliyul Ahad of the Khalif Ma'mun? Why? Why did he support him, Zahiran, if he doesn't accept them to be just leaders? So they would come to the Imam himself and ask us. They would say, we didn't expect the son of Amir al-Mu'mineen to be part of a khilafah of someone who is unjust and zahir. The reply of the Imam is a reply that only an infallible can give. So when first we are told that Ma'mun comes and says, I wish to give you khilafah. You become the Khalif, not me. I wish to give you khilafah. The Imam, what does he reply? The Imam replies, number one, if you are worthy of khilafah, if khilafah belongs to you, then it's haram for you to give to anyone. If I take myself to be Khalif, I can't give it to anyone. I'm the mustahaq and the worthy of khilafah. He says, and if khilafah doesn't belong to you, then who are you to give it to me when you don't own it in the first place? I don't own this phone, can I give it to anyone? He says, if you don't own khilafah, who are you to offer me khilafah? When then he is forced to accept this Zahiri khilafah of the Abbasiyun, a person came and said, we didn't expect this from the son of Zahra. I didn't expect this from you, Ya Allah. What does he reply? He said, when you look at the life of my father, Amir al-Mu'mineen, don't you ask why he accepted that khilafah? This Zahir khilafah of the dunya, why did he accept that? I said, yes. We asked the question and we know the answer. He says, the same answer is why I took the reins of this Zahiri khilafah. The same reason that my father, Abu al-Hasan Amir al-Mu'mineen, was forced to accept that khilafah for 3.5, 4 years of his life is the same reason that I had to accept. The example that the ulama give of this khilafah is that today on this road outside, you saw a very expensive car. £100,000, £200,000, even more. Person parks up. He comes out of his car. He takes out his wallet or something. Takes out the keys and wallet together. Rolling out from his wallet comes £1 coin. Falls onto the ground, begins to roll, enters into the gutter. That person, will he look at that £1 coin? My car is worth so much. I have so much money. What's this £1 coin to me? A person who has no money, who is homeless, even that amount of money, he will run towards it. This was the exact same example of Ahlul Bayt and this khilafah of this world. Why did Ali ibn Abi Talib not call out and say, I want khilafah and give me khilafah and fight for his right of khilafah? Why is it that the Imam doesn't accept to be the Khalif and says, I'll be Waliul Ahad, Imam Ridha, and I'll be the second in charge? Because khilafah is like that penny, that £1 in front of the eyes of that person. The Imam, when he has the wilayatul takweeniyya and tashri'iyya of this world, when the riwayat say that it rains on this earth because of the wujud and presence of the Imam, what is the khilafah of this dunya in front of his eyes? What worth does it have? And so he says that I accepted to be Waliul Ahad. I said, I don't want khilafah. I accepted to be Waliul Ahad for 2 or 3 years that he was there until he was poisoned, Imam al-Ridha sallallahu alayhi. And at that moment in time, when he comes to Khurasan, the Khurasan and Mashhad you see today was established by wujud of Ridha alayhi salam. Was established by people just seeing the grandson of the Prophet of Islam. There are many stories, I don't want to take too much of your time, of Imam Ridha during that period of time. For example, when it comes to the day of Eid, as we know even today, there are certain prayers when the Imam is present, that salah is wajib. Salatul Jum'ah, if the Imam isn't in occultation, it's wajib. Salatul Eid likewise. Salatul Eid, when the Imam is present, is wajib. Who leads the prayer? The Imam leads the prayer, and that person leads the prayer who the Imam has given responsibility to, and delegated responsibility to do so. So I have appointed this person to lead the prayer in London, it becomes wajib for me to go to that prayer and pray behind the person who the Imam has appointed. So the Salatul Eid and Salatul Jumu'ah are led by representatives of the Imam or the Imam himself. Ma'mun says, I told Al-Ridha, I wish for you to lead the prayers of Eid this year. Riwayat speak about the way in which the son of Zahra comes with a white turban. Normally his turban was green, he comes with a white turban. The day of Eid, you should wear white. With tahtul hanak, one side of the turban coming down across his neck, with white clothing, the abba of the Prophet of Islam, he comes out barefoot. as he leaves his house barefoot. The riwayat speak about thousands of army generals and soldiers of that army coming behind him, behind the leader of the nation and the ummah. And on every 10th step he stops and begins to do takbir. The riwayat say because of the wujud of the Imam, people from their rooftops were looking and seeing the Imam, and they thought that the Prophet of Islam has been resurrected and come back into this life. And constantly they do takbir with the Imam and mention the dhikr of the day of Eid until he is walking. And the riwayat mention that there was not one place that wasn't following the Imam in takbir. The walls were shaking and crying out with the name of Ridha alayhi salam, until he is going. As we know, one of the mustahabbat of Salatul Eid is that Salatul Eid is prayed outside in the open, in a field, in a forest, wherever. As he is going towards there, they make him stop. One of the generals of Ma'mun comes and says that, Ya Abul Hasan, we wish for you to go back. He says, why? It's because Ma'mun knows that if you get to that place of Salah and lead Salatul Jama'ah, he will have nothing left and all of the Persian Empire will be under the hands of Ridha alayhi salam. But again I say, that pound coin which that person sees means nothing to him. Khilafah of this dunya means nothing to Imam al-Ridha when Allah has given him the reins of wilayah and divine guidance. And divine authority over the mankind, he goes back. Today, for example, I have a majlis and you cancel me last minute, how upset am I? Often this happens. A scholar has to, for example, a khatib has to recite for Muharram 10 days. He's planning all of the year for those 10 days and he gets cancelled. How upset is he? It happens sometimes. Imam al-Ridha alayhi salam realizes the true Islam is not what the people see and this physical power. He says, I went back and I prayed Salatul Eid at my house. But they knew that the wujud of the Imam is such that when you look at Mashhad of al-Ridha alayhi salam today, and when you look at the Shia which are spread in that province, all because of this migration, man yakhruj min baytihi muhajiran ila Allah wa rasulih. And he passes away on that journey, or he passes away from his hometown. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives that person his reward in dunya and akhirah. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give us the sustenance to be able to do ziyarah of Imam al-Ridha salamullah alayhi every single year, as well as do ziyarat of the Imam alayhi salam. And to continuously have these gatherings where we remember the lives of these A'imma, their trials and tribulations.
چونان حبیب مظاهر مدار